Good afternoon, everyone. Today is April 2nd, 2026. We are going to, welcome to the House Judiciary Committee. We will be hearing our sponsor-only Senate bill hearings today. And I see Senator Washington here, so we're going to start with her. And we're going to start with Senator Washington. We have two, Senate Bill 187 and Senate Bill 524. Which would you like to start?
Madam Chair, if I could do 187,
okay.
And my committee staff would do the other bill, because I have three other.
That sounds good. Okay, thank you. Are there any other Senate staff members here? I see Mike. Okay, could you tell me which office you're with?
Senator Sidnor's office?
Perfect, thank you. Is anyone here from Senator Henson's office yet? Okay, all righty, thank you. And Senator, I was giving you time. Is this good? You ready? All set?
I am now.
All right, welcome to Judiciary. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. As I go through my testimony, I'd like to draw attention. You have in front of you, you should have a preliminary draft version of proposed amendments. And why I'm providing that is that I did a substantial restructuring of the article itself. And so to really very clearly separate out definitions, what the facility, the mandate to have a facility, what the actual portions of the of services and programming, and then also the construction piece. Because over time, with amendments here and there, I think it was very clear that that piece of the corrections article really needed to be built out in a way. So that's why I'm offering that. They will not be formally submitted to your committee until Delegate Crutchfield and I've finalized this, but we've been working on it together, so just to be clear. So for the record, I'm Senator Mary Washington, and I'm here to present Senate Bill 187. And to be very clear, which is also why I'm directing you to the draft amendments, is that the bill that passed the Senate is not in the posture I intended, nor how I drafted, how to submit it, and is not one I can fully support. I had worked with Delegate Crutchfield and the sponsor, the House sponsor of the cross-file, and have worked closely with amendments to address the outstanding issues. And again, I'd like to explain to them what they address and why they matter. The bill as amended, it narrowed the eligibility in ways that were opposite of what the legislation was intended to do. And again, I might add that during the committee voting session and a number of the times, the Department of Corrections was on hand and was conferred with, and there was real in-time live voice amendments that we're going through. Our intent was to expand access, to make clear that this facility exists to support women transitioning back into society and ensure that more women can benefit from it. The sponsor amendments restore that intent. JPR bill also defined reentry facility to include a community-based facility or any other facility operated by the commissioner. That any other facility language would allow the state to point to MCIW, a maximum security prison, and call it in compliance. So my amendments address that and get rid of that poison pill that was provided to JPR. The sponsor amendments close the loophole by defining the facility as a dedicated, standalone structure operating at a minimum security level with explicit prohibition on co-housing women with individuals classified as medium or maximum security. The amendments also restore Baltimore City as the required location, establish a minimum of 62,000 gross square feet, and set a half-mile buffer from an existing correctional facility with no shared entrance, security checkpoint, or administrative space. Finally, the amendments include legislative intent section that affirms that the statutory deadlines from the Chapter 16 of 2021 are not waived or extinguished by the bill. Felt it was very important that it is clear that we have been asking for this to be built since 2021, and that the intent of that should not be adjusted by adjusting deadlines. The history of this project is a history of deadlines that have passed without consequence. This language makes clear that the General Assembly has not forgotten what is required and that this bill will not be a reset. This committee already knows this issue. The amendments, as the sponsors, have drafted are the guardrails necessary to ensure that what gets built actually functions as intended and sets returning women up for success. I respectfully ask for your report, for your favorable report. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Senator.
I'm open to any questions or clarification.
Members, do we have any questions? Delegate Williams.
Yes, thank you, Senator Washington, for bringing this bill back again and again and again and again. I am happy to see that there are some amendments being worked on. I had heard about the version that was voted out of the Senate and was very disturbed, to be honest with you, about that version. I feel like this bill has been here as long as I've been here. I'm a co-sponsor of the House version. I agree with what needs to be accomplished, and so I'm happy to hear that there are amendments moving forward in a direction to try to accomplish the actual intent of the legislation.
And Delegate Williams, thank you for that. These were amendments that I had provided to our JPR committee prior, in early February. And again, due to some influence, they were reconstructed in a way to circumvent the original intent, so I appreciate that. There is also an error I want to point out that Delegate Crutchfield had pointed out that there's, I think in the draft that you have, it says 1.5 miles. The committee can amend it to the 0.5, and we're hoping that the final version has that in there, but and there might just be one or two things, but this is it. You should also know that I'm working very closely with our leadership. This is a Senate leadership priority. The Speaker, the Senate President understands that, and that as soon as you all get this out, we will work to have it be concurred with and become law. Yes. But we'll continue to need your advocacy, but I, appreciate the work and the fidelity with which this committee has stood with the women in pre-release and reentry status. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Valentine.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator. I'm not sure if I'm looking at which version I'm looking at, so I just want to be clear. Sure. And you explained some of it in your testimony, yeah, where the eligibility portion. Mm-hmm. So I was looking on one of the reprints on page 4 where it talks about be able to accommodate 1.25 times the maximum number of women in MCI. Right. And then you talked about where it actually reduces the amount of individuals in pre-release classification to 18 months from anticipated release. So we're narrowing the scope, correct?
Well, okay, so that's why
where I wanted to kind of go back to, because it goes from a lot to.
That is the definition that was provided upon advice of corrections. And again, it was not the definition that was agreed upon by myself and others, but that's what appeared in the bill. So what we've done is, rather than putting definitions in individual little subsections, what you have instead is a 3- on the first page, a 3-301, where it says these words mean this. So here, an eligible individual means a woman who is within 18 months of a woman's anticipated release date. I know that there may be an interest in amending that up for a longer period of time. And then it also has pre-release. This "and" should not be there. It should not be an "and." It should be that they are 18 months of anticipated release date or has pre-release status.
So my question is this a very limited number of people because they're within the 18 months? Is it a very narrow scope of it?
I'm sure you all have dealt with reentry. Well, frankly, as a state of Maryland, we've not done much at all. If you look at our code, we really don't have much description about what reentry actually is. There has been, and I could share with the committee, there have been a number of studies. And so most recently in 2011, when we were looking at the justice reinvestment and looking at what reentry should look like, typically reentry is considered people who have an anticipated date of when they are going to be released, right? And nationally, that date could be, that amount of time could be 18 months, it could be 2 years, but the idea is that the services, the very specific needs that you need upon thinking about being released into your community and going home is different than the type of services and behavioral health that you should be, maybe you're receiving from, another time. Additionally, in Maryland, this pre-release, so we're not limiting it to just, reentry really should just be this certain amount of time. But over time, pre-release, women are also eligible. So, so combining this pre-release, which is a security status, right? Everywhere else, pre-release is linked to a specific time. It's not security status, right? But when the Women's Pre-Release Center was closed in 2009 in Baltimore City, they moved it to MCIW. So that was the definition of what it was. It was implied if you're in the community that you're minimum status, but it really had to do with your date, right? Over that time, it was moved to a unit, a floor, or at MCIW. So over time, it began to be less about your reentry and more about the fact that you have a security status that can allow you some flexibility, that you're a minimum status and a sort of reward, so that gives you access to certain types of programming. So it was based on your security level. Reentry, that is not reentry. I mean, regardless of the security level of someone, if somebody's being released and maybe they don't have a pre-release security, they're still going home at some point. So the way that pre-release and reentry services are delivered in the state of Maryland now, it's really not that eye to anyone who has anyone who's anticipated of a release date. The people who are going to live in the pre-release center or the reentry center have to, of course, have a secure, be able to safely live in the community, right? So that's a subset. So you would have the set of people who are all going to be released with a certain date, and they should be receiving these services. And then you have a subset of them who could live in the community and be able to do the type of work release, go visit families, have that kind of access. So that's what we're trying to construct here.
So based on page 4, would it be a larger facility than what you actually need?
No.
It's not?
No.
Okay.
And also, I should say that the size of the facility, we really should not relitigate this. This was determined a long time ago. In fact, there have been RFPs. In fact, the former head of corrections if you'll look up, has been an RFP out for a reentry and life skills facility, and it is already designed to be 6,200 feet. It is already has these specifications. What has happened is that in contradiction to legislative intent, the guidelines that were set forth were simply ignored. And because of the advocacy of many of you and others, there's been the pushback about saying, no, you have to, if you're going to build it, you have to build it right. So any numbers that are in this bill are correlating specifically to established standards and expectations, but unfortunately, we have to make it explicit in law. Otherwise, we'll continue to be at this place where the agency is not moving forward. Because it frankly does not believe that these women need this facility. That has been stated multiple times. They believe that they should stay at MCIW. They believe that they should just receive these services, at Jessup, and they don't believe it's worth our money and our time and our investment to reestablish the Women's Pre-Release Center that has been promised. Yeah.
Based on the definition, about how many women would this impact? Do you have any idea, just an approximate? Are we talking hundreds or
right, so
about?
Right. So the facility is designed, this facility should be designed to have kind of a plus or minus, somewhere around 67, 80, 90. At a maximum, the 2009 Women's Pre-Release could hold 135 women. And so there's some thought that this one should be around 80, 90. Well, it just really depends.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The Vice Chair.
Thank you. I think I want to ask a question that's directly related to my colleague here.
Sure.
Eligible individual.
Yeah.
You don't have a problem with that being 36 months of the woman's anticipated release date.
That was my original.
And you also made the correction of or has
Yes.
pre-release status.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds good. And you mentioned that you and your crossfire were working on it. You know time is of the essence. When do you think we're going to get the amendments?
You should work with your colleague.
Excuse me?
I think the committee can work with my colleague to ensure that we're,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So we're hoping that the version, I guess this version, hoping that it's today, but then the committee, any additional, the amendments like fixing that or, right, changing the 36, that's what the committee can do.
Okay, thank you.
Did that, I don't want to appear to be not clearly answering it.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, cool.
Okay, members, do we have any other questions? Delegate Valentine.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I was looking at some of the timelines, and I was trying to look at, I'm trying to read through a lot of these different changes. And this may be original, it may not. I see there's some reporting requirements. One's May 1st, one's June 1st, and one's July 1st, all of this year.
Yes.
Is this an emergency bill?
Yes, it is.
It is. That's quite a quick turnaround. Do you think, is that amendments that you liked or that were put in there that you did not like? These are.
What you see is what were actually the amendments from last year's bill.
Okay.
So they're also updated. Again, the agency will say we need extra, put these different dates, but there just has really, it has only served to provide fodder to further delay.
Okay.
And so these aren't saying, if you'll note, we're not saying that you have to be finished. We're just saying, we want you to, in particular, in my conversations with DGS and also some advice with DLS about, well, do they have to review a contract for 3 months? Do they have to? Is there a way to move this along? And I'm sure you know this, that there is a procurement, and it says you shall request an expedited procurement process. So that's saying, okay, you can request that. And then once you've requested it, we want to know, we want to see, we want the receipts that you've requested it, right? There is an existing contract that just would have to be, updated. And so again, yes, the timelines are aggressive in terms of reporting back to us, but they are not unrealistic about how this and what should happen.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Taylor.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate your, love this idea. Have loved it since the first day I've heard about it. I really, truly hope that we make some progress on this bill this year. I just wanted to make you aware, if you're not already, that a couple of years ago, we started a task force on reentry.
Yes, I read it.
So
Yeah.
I would love to see some of the things that you have here incorporated into the report that's due this year.
Yes.
So isn't that so, that we have something
Isn't that
going
so?
simultaneously?
And you should know
that could,
absolutely, because this isn't the end of the work. This committee. The actual work is about actually creating a real reentry system. We don't have it. There are pieces, and they can say you'll say Project Fresh, et cetera, but if you look in regulations, if you look in law, there's nothing really on the website. When you do find something that says reentry, it'll say this is a voluntary process that can start between 6 and 12 months. It just really, we can do better. And so, it's very much my hope that we get the bill done, that we establish, that it's gender responsive, that it's expanding, what reentry services that can happen at MCIW, and also the reentry services that happen on site. It is not an either or. These women that have a date, no matter what their security status, are going to go back to their communities, and there should be a way to address, to provide for them. And we don't have that right now.
thank you.
Members, do we have any other questions?
And I'm happy to text anyone, any questions about, I just have read everything. I've read every annual report from the last 3 years. I've read every report about reentry. I know I've read all of the regulations. And so I would love to have other people to talk about it with.
All righty. Oh, so hold on one moment, please. The Vice Chair.
So just for clarification, I am trying to understand, you've asked us to work on it, and what changes would make it a full lockdown facility? Because that's not what we want. So what do we want to stray away from making it a full lockdown facility?
It's not, it's not a, could you look in the bill where, I said the version that Corrections advised JPR to send to you had language that could be interpreted to allow that. We have gotten rid of that language.
And what was that language, so we make sure we don't do
The
that?
language amended a definition of reentry that added or any other facility operated.
Right. I remember
and
that.
so you're going to see some subtitles that were not part of the original drafting that were added in and kind of made some corrections additionally about security statuses and all that. And I'm not saying that doesn't need to happen, but that could happen in regulation, and it really should not be a part of, this bill, which is really, as I said, about firmly establishing that there shall be a women's pre-release facility, right? And that it shall not be a part of any existing correctional facility. It can't share a perimeter, it can't share an entrance. And then also, we've added some language to imply that it operates independently. We can't have the supervisor at MCIW calling in to make sure everything's okay in Baltimore City. We're not trying to see that, which is what I think they want to do. And that, again, being very clear about all the work, it's kind of taking all the work and amendments that have been done over the last few years, but organizing them, you know, in a way. And then, and then, the final part is the uncodified language that is asking for research, some research. So this would be on the Section 3, be it further enacted. Right now, reentry services seem to be being provided all over the place, and there's this very loose authorization for corrections to do that. So, you know, it's like, okay, so I've identified at least, we do know the Department of Labor does some, but then also I found that there's something called the Maryland Reentry Initiative. There are a number of workforce development programs. We've got, supposedly we have reentry navigators. There's apparently an American Job Center Services that supposedly does some contracting with us. There is a social work unit that is supposed to have reentry services. However, it's my understanding it's only staffed by 2 people. So we want to know what the reentry staffing is. We want to know what the casework is. We want to know that they are engaging in using substance use, peer recovery, education, and that there is also medical and health. We want to know who are the medical and health contractors.
Thank you.
And then that will provide you all with the information you need next session.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
All righty, we're going to call up, I saw Senator Henson. Okay, I don't see her anymore. So. We're not doing another game? Oh, I'm sorry. That's right, we are. Yeah. No, she as a staff member. Senator Washington, staff member?
Yes, he's.
Your staff member? Okay. Okay, we're going to call up Senate Bill 524, please. And, yep. So this is a sponsor-only hearing. And tell me who's going to be that person. Okay. And then everyone else is here to give support to him?
Yes.
Okay. Great. All righty. And whenever you are ready, sir, you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Bartlett, Vice Chair Davis, and committee members. For the record, my name is Elijah Clark, and I am Senator Washington's Social Policy and Constituent Services Assistant. I'm here to present Senate Bill 524 on behalf of the Baltimore City Administration. This legislation, which is supported by the Baltimore City Senate delegation, authorizes the Baltimore City Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, the Baltimore City Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, and the Baltimore City Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement to access and confidentially use the police records and court records of the youth they serve. Each office must only use these records for the development of a comprehensive treatment plan and for purposes relevant to the programs and services it provides. They are also held liable for any unauthorized release of juvenile records they access. The bill was amended in the Senate to require the Baltimore City Mayor's Office to obtain written consent from a child's parent or guardian, as well as enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Juvenile Services, specifying guidelines on how these records should be handled prior to gaining access to a specific set of juvenile records. Thank you for your time, and we respectfully request a favorable report.
Okay, and can you tell us who you have with you today?
We have Nina from the Mayor's Office here to answer any questions that members
Okay,
may.
great. Good to see you. All righty. Members, do we have any questions? Delegate Simmons.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for coming out. It's so important. Obviously, you know, this bill has gotten a lot of attention. and we want to make sure that we are proceeding appropriate when it comes to recommendations coming from the Attorney General's office and things that are taking place within Baltimore City. Let me ask you this. When it comes to implementing the training, what are y'all putting in place to train staff on how to handle these documents in reference to this bill?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm Chanel White, Chief of Staff at the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. So we've done a lot of work to ensure that the records are maintained. Number one, limiting the staff who would have access to those records to those who are only specifically doing that work. So within Monty's agency, we have 2 of our staff currently who would be our Youth Opportunity Coordinator and then her direct supervisor, which is our Deputy Chief. The data team, which are 2 members, and then the director and myself as Chief of Staff. Anybody else would not be able to access those records, and our system will be protected so that even if they try to access those records, they would not be able to.
Sure. So with such a limited body of people or individuals having access, what happens when they are not at work?
I don't think all 6 of us would ever be out at an instance, but we also prepare by making sure that we are ensuring that adequate staff is present during that time. Like myself as Chief of Staff and the Director rarely take off at the same time. We coordinate vacations, scheduling, meetings. I'm here today because she's handling another meeting. Our data team has been amazing. And our team honestly knows that the work that we do, someone is always accessible. So, and then if there is the need, we put in proactive measures, preparing for that person to be out to make sure there's someone there to be able to fill in who would have the access.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's my understanding that from what we heard on the House version, the Senate bill looks a little bit different. And I believe what is different is that the section on page 5 that says, that had this broad information that said essentially that, I'm looking at 9.1 on page 5, that it that this subsection does not prohibit access to confidential use of a court recorded, I'm having trouble here, to access to and confidential use of a court record by the Baltimore City Mayor's, Monzi, it names a few others, if the office is providing programs to a child who is the subject of the record for. And it looks like what has been taken out is a purpose relevant to the provision of the programs and services and development. And what has been added is purposes directly relating to supporting the treatment, rehabilitation, reentry planning, or continuity of care. Is that, am I reading this right?
Yes, Madam Chair. So the amendments that were incorporated into the Senate version of the bill, which is before you, take into consideration the testimony submitted by the Department of Juvenile Services that wanted to kind of narrow in the scope of specifically what records would be accessed, how they would be accessed. And so while it was always the intent of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement and DJS to have a memorandum of understanding, we wanted to be more explicit with that in the legislation itself. So it narrows the scope as far as the purpose being directly related just versus being relevant, and also outlines some of the parameters for the MOU as well as that parental consent component.
Okay, thank you. And that was a concern that I had with respect to access to juvenile records. Can you also explain whether or not this program is a new program, or is this a program that we are simply making sure continues?
Sure. So this is reauthorizing a carve-out that was in state law previously. The oldest back I have seen reference is 2013, and the statute expired, its sunset on September 30th of 2025. So the office had previously been working with DJS and connecting with these young people to provide them services, but once that provision sunset last fall, they have been pausing those services until we're able to hopefully reauthorize them.
Thank you. And was this bill introduced last year?
No, it was not.
In anticipation of the sunset? I was just wondering.
It was not. There was a miscommunication between DJS and the mayor's office as far as making sure that it was brought before the expiration date.
No worries. Okay. Delegate Stinnett, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good seeing you all. Appreciate it. And you've done a great job representing the senator. Just a quick question. I want to see what are the policies of these new mayor offices as far as implementing as far as to have access to the juvenile records?
So I'll speak a bit, and then I'll let the chief of staff speak.
Actually, if you don't mind, since this is a sponsor only, if we could just have one person answer the question, not to be rude, but sponsor only usually means one person is talking the entire time. Thank you so much.
All right,
Delegate
thank you. Yeah. Either or.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Okay. What policies are these new mayor offices implementing to have access to juvenile records?
So the policies that we want to implement is, number one, data storage and retention, who has access to the data, and that we're only accessing the limited information that we need to provide the support services and the wraparound services. So we won't have full access. DJS will determine what access we need to effectively create that individualized plan for that youth. And given what that plan is, we'll get access to the necessary relevant information to be able to do a proper assessment to make sure that they are integrated with the right support services, the right organization, and that we are addressing the need instead of trying to, it's kind of like we were shooting in the dark, trying to figure out certain things without this piece of legislation being in effect. So having that information will help us be more effective, will help the youth receive the services that are necessary, impactful, or that have been identified with the information provided.
Good. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Embry?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you both for being here, all of you for being here. I have two questions. One is just to confirm that with the amendments, DJS is now favorable on the bill. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. And the second is Monsi itself tracking recidivism of the kids that they serve? And if so, are they using these records to do that, or is that being tracked by DJS or some other entity?
So in partnership with DJS, we also track. So we do check-ins with our youth who were engaged in the program, any youth diversion programs or anything like that, just to see where they are and follow up if they successfully had completed the program. We track if we've had lost contact with the family and how long it took us to regain contact if we were able to. So we do track and store that data.
What about new arrests specifically? I mean, information that would come from juvenile records.
So new arrests, if we're following up and they are between that follow-up time, yes. But if it's after the time that we are 18, 24 months or whatever it was, if it's after that time, it would be from the family member contacting us or someone else. But outside of that, no.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Delegate Conaway? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see. Delegate Mangione, he's deferring to you, so.
Thank you, Delegate, and thank you, Madam Chair. And quick question, I mean, you may, I may not even ask it. Did you say this is extending something that you were already doing to the mayor's office?
It's reauthorizing.
Reauthorizing.
Yes.
Okay, then, well, I guess I'll just ask this question because that helps me. And I mean, this isn't really my fight, this issue. But I am curious as to why and how the office does justify, because, and I don't always agree with the body here, but they go through extreme lengths for the confidentiality of juveniles, even ones that have committed serious crimes. But how do you justify like the mayor's, and it seems, I mean, it helps me that you already did do this, but I am curious as to why it's so inconsistent, in my opinion. And that, to be honest, is part of the body here. I feel it's inconsistent to allow these juvenile records to be accessed by more and more people that aren't law enforcement, that aren't, you know, they're not state's attorneys, they're not the police. And if we pass this bill, it'll gain more access. And my understanding is there were already issues with almost 700 names in a data leak, whether it was by accident or on purpose, who knows, I don't think it's relevant. But the point is, I just want to hear why, because it seems you have a unanimous support in the Senate, but why, you know, that's not a contradiction.
So I'll say that, and I'm a former educator of 12, 14 years, so I do understand the importance of keeping that information secure and not giving it access to a bunch of people. The people in our office who would have the access to that are trained professionals who understand the importance as well of the data collection, but understand that there's a gap that needs to be filled, and we can't fill it without access to this information. So as Monty is a fairly new agency, only established since December of 2022, during that time, over the course of these last 3.5-ish years, we have been implementing more and more protocols, processes, and policies to ensure that, number one, we're in compliance with DJS, state and local rules around storage and protection of this data, because we do understand how sensitive it is. But also, even with the data leak that did happen, that was addressed, that employee is no longer with our agency, and that also heightened and allowed us to see where the gaps were and to bring in trained professionals from our data team to our law department, to our partners at DJS, to make sure that, number one, we do have the proper security systems in place, the proper CMS systems in place, and that our team has gone through training. We've implemented bi-weekly program managers meetings to ensure that they're in compliance with any new changes with the law, any things that we need to be knowledgeable of, and we are in constant weekly meetings with DJS and our partners to make sure that we are all on the same page and operating forward in the common goal of, number one, servicing the youth, but also keeping their information protected.
And thank you for your response, honestly, and I think that's important. If it can help, I guess my question should probably be directed at the General Assembly for why I feel like it's inconsistent. But no, I do appreciate your answers, and I'm learning about this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, panel, for coming in and testifying. So this breach of information, the 700, I guess, juveniles' names, when did that happen?
Let me look at my notes. I don't have the exact date, but it was during the tenure of one of our former employees. I think it was in the last 2 years. I don't have the exact date, but since then.
So it's been within 2 years? So
Yes, it was.
Or 26?
No, it wasn't 26 or 25. I don't have the exact date.
Okay, we can move on to something else. Thank you. Maybe you can get that to me.
Okay.
Is the state's attorney in favor of this bill?
I would direct that to the state's attorney's office.
Okay, well, let's approach it a different way then. There's testimony in this file from the state's attorney's office that they say they're not in favor of this bill. Is that still accurate?
I believe if that's their stance, I believe it is, but we worked together in other areas before.
I understand that, but I want to know why you're not working together in this area.
Well, that's not our choice. You have to answer that. You have to ask the state's attorney's office. They're always a welcome partner in the work. It's not, we're keeping them out. We would love to have their support and participation and partnership.
Sure. Do you know that in this letter it says specifically, we believe that given the fact that none of these entities seeking to gain access to the juvenile records are law enforcement agencies, et cetera, they're not in favor of people that are not law enforcement having access to this information. Why? I don't understand why we should go with releasing this type of sensitive information to people who are not law enforcement.
Because we're the ones who provide the direct service, and we understand the state's attorney's focus is in prosecuting cases and holding people who have been charged to the standards of the law to seek justice. Our job is to act as a community partner, a government city agency, to support the work that's already being done through providing the wraparound services, the support services. And these are low-level offenses. So the youth that we are speaking about, they aren't committing murders and things like that. Not that any crime should be excused. However, we do know if we address things when they're at a lower level and show them that there's a different way, connect them to support services, the success chance of committing these continued offenses or through youth or through adults are significantly decreased. So what we're trying to do is address them before they become a problem for the state's attorney's office or BPD. And I think by connecting them to services, and a lot of times we see families are calling our offices, they're calling our agencies, I need help. That help doesn't fall underneath the umbrella of what BPD or what state's attorneys does. So we have an agency like Monty who is there filling in the gap and then connecting them to these supports, these services in partnership and coordination on an ongoing basis, but also being forthcoming and accepting collaboration to ensure that, number one, we are, like I said, in compliance with all laws, and two, that we are servicing the young people.
Okay, so this, just so I can be clear, the state's attorney's office cannot provide support service. So therefore, we need you to provide, am I correct?
Okay.
So we need you to provide these services. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that they can't. I'm not worked for the state's attorney's office, but what I'm
Then
saying.
you say you don't know.
I don't know, correct.
Oh,
I said
okay.
I do know what they do is they seek justice through prosecution.
No, but I asked you in specific about these support services, and then you indicated that you don't know.
Correct.
I'm happy with that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Delegate Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here, and actually, thank you for what the organization does. It sounds like a great mission. I know that there was a security breach, and you mentioned that you have put preventative measures, security measures in place. I'm actually asking this question on kind of behalf of my colleague here who's not here, who's always concerned about the victim, right? So, you know, if records, when you have a juvenile record, are victims' information tied in there? And, you know, what's your policy regarding, you know, if this youth is put into the community, how's a victim notified? Like, what's your policy around that?
Well, we don't notify the victim. That would happen outside of our agency. But once the young person is referred to us, whatever information we get, we do keep that private, and we wouldn't share that information with the family. If we did receive a victim's name, that wouldn't be something that we disclose to the family of the juvenile we're assisting. Our goal, again, specifically for that, would be to service and provide supports for the juvenile to prevent them from continuing to commit these kinds of acts again.
Thank you.
Delegate McComas.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not that familiar with Muncie, so I'm going to ask some basic questions. Could you tell me what your budget is, basically, your yearly budget, if you know?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Pardon?
Can you repeat it? I'm sorry.
What is the yearly budget for Muncie?
It's about 17, I just did our grant. I don't think it's in here. I don't want to misquote. Just for this program and the overall agency with staffing, support.
Right.
I think it's about 17 million, I think.
17 million?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a fair chunk of change. All right. And how many employees?
40.
All right. And what would you say is the average salary? You know, or you know, just kind of the average ballpark.
80,000.
Okay. And then the other question is, who gives you that 17 million? Where's the money come from?
Some grants, the city's operating budget. We apply for federal and state grants to support some of the staff who are grant hired. Some are general funded. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, so the city gives you a grant, other private, and the federals give you a grant?
Correct.
Okay, and so you have an Office of Inspector General?
Correct.
Okay, so have you been able, it seems like there was an OIG report in October 22, and they found there was a lack of formal case plans, data collection, and follow-up with the youth. So what are you doing to correct that?
So, and that's what so during that investigation, that was a pilot program. So that means when a pilot program is there, it's to figure out how the program should be managed, what needs to be in place. And at that time, I think, like I said, we were a new agency, and as we were growing and formalizing, we made adjustments based on being in compliance with the laws, making sure we were retaining records. When we got knowledge of, and I did get the date of when the data breach occurred, and it occurred in April
Well,
of
I'm not even asking about the data breach. Okay,
I'm leading into that to say, because of things that were highlighted, those were the protocols we put in place, like the training of our staff, a new CMS system that manages the information.
Can I ask, how long has Muncie been in operation?
December of 2022.
Okay, and so was this the first audit or investigation by the OIG?
In any capacity, or just in related to this juvenile.
Well, I mean, is it, because how often do you have audits with Muncie? Every year?
Well, fiscal audits, yes, yearly. We do fiscal audit of the agency every year.
Okay.
The OIG does audit whenever they are triggered by either a complaint or something like that.
So was there a complaint that triggered the OIGs for October 22 analysis?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, do you know how many complaints were made to the?
Not offhand.
Okay. And the OIG was Baltimore City Office of Inspector
Yes.
General? Okay. And do you know approximately how much the city gives to Muncie? What proportion? Is it a third, a half?
Not offhand.
You know, okay. Well, okay, so Muncie had a lack of breakdowns from the DJS grant funds for some of the fiscal years. So who's taking care of the finances and breaking down what your finance office? How many people do you have?
We have a finance chief, and then we have a finance operations coordinator, and we are currently filling for another finance role that was recently vacant.
Okay. Well, now what have you done to prevent the data breach that you had, where there were like 700 records given to put to a private email address?
Yes. So that employee, like I said, is no longer with our agency. In addition to that, we have transitioned to a new system that manages it. We have restricted who is able to access the data in that system. And we also have policies, procedures, and guidelines, operating procedures in place that must be followed. And in addition to that, there's ongoing training. So we do bi-weekly meetings with all of our program managers. We review the data that they're collecting, sharing, and storing, and then we highlight and flag anything that needs to be flagged.
So was this after the data breach?
Yes, this is after the data breach.
So when exactly was the date of the data breach?
It was April of 2023.
So it wasn't investigated or anything until the OIG came in and the October 25 report?
Correct. And I also would like to highlight, if I can, that there was no misuse of data or anything like that. He wasn't sharing it to discuss. It appeared as if he was sharing it to get help in creating an Excel sheet.
Okay. So how many times you're saying it's been done yearly, correct? Who's done
the fiscal?
Pardon?
The fiscal audit.
Right. And who does the fiscal audit?
Well, we have to, as a government agency, we have to report our finances every year.
Okay, so
Delegate McComas, I think we're at number 12 on questions, so here's what we're
okay,
gonna do.
all right.
Here, no,
Okay, I'm done.
are you done? Because I was gonna say,
Well,
you get one
I just
more.
wondered who does it, so does the city of Baltimore do your audit?
Yes, well, we have to report it to like the Department of Treasury. It depends on what the funds are coming from. So we all do a single file audit.
Okay, well, when you say a single file
Okay.
audit, does that one that goes to, just real quick,
Okay.
to all of the agencies that give you money, is that it? Or what? When it's
I believe so. We have to report on all our grant funding, all of our fiscal finance funding, and our financial overview state of it.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Delegate Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for coming in. And I did not hear all of your testimony, but I am familiar with this particular bill. And I want to make sure that I'm clear on some things. There was an existing MOU with the Department of General Services, the Department of Juvenile Services, correct?
Yes.
All right. And so what you're asking for is pretty much the continuance of an existing relationship that has existed over the years. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And in doing that, you may not know this, but I represent Baltimore County. And in Baltimore County, we have a program called Joins. And it's my understanding that the Baltimore County Joins program has similar access to what you're asking for. Is that correct, or do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, all right. And then there are a number of other programs around the state. So I guess I want to make sure number one, you've talked about the data breach and what you've done to address that. I guess you've talked about the use of the data and why you need it. And a third, I guess, well, I want to make sure that it is really, you're not asking for anything significantly different than you've already had.
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And I want to ask a question before I give Delegate Conaway a second bite. How do you measure success in your program?
By, number one, ensuring that we are in communication with our partners to develop the assessment plan and that the plan is agreed upon by everyone who has a stake in it, the family, DJS, Monty. Two, what that plan will look like moving forward and what those resources and services will include, and then who is going to do the follow-up from Monty, who's doing the follow-up from DJS, that we're in constant communication, case review, and that at any time we feel like there is, that youth is at risk for not successfully completing, whether it's not being in constant communication, not going to the service provider that they are connecting to, or not being engaged in the services that they're receiving, that we're flagging those early on and not letting them delay, so that towards the end of their wrap up with that program to ensure that they have completed it, that they have successfully engaged and completed and not just have shown up to check a box, but that these are meaningful services and that they are being used so that that young person does not go on to continue to be a risk for committing other crimes or more serious crimes or engaging with people who have the potential to cause them to then in their adult years commit more serious crimes. And then follow up.
Have you found that the program has reduced the risk for young people to commit more serious crimes?
I do.
Okay, and have you found a reduction in any homicide rate in the city, in Baltimore City?
Well,
Has there been any reduction in the homicide rate of youth in Baltimore City since the program's existence?
There has been a reduction of youth, but these are low-level offenses.
I know.
Okay, so these aren't
I just
committing
wanted
those
it to be
crimes.
on the record.
And I appreciate
What
it,
the
but I do
measures-
think that it has impacted that in some way.
Okay, and it's important because the reason why I was asking this question, low level today may lead to homicide tomorrow. So that's why I wanted to know if there's been any reduction in the homicide rate in Baltimore City that could be attributed to this program.
I would say yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Delegate Conaway.
Panel again for coming in and testify. So I'm looking at the Maryland Judicial Council Legislative Committee testimony that they sent in. And it says that they oppose your bill. And they oppose your bill because you'll have this access to juvenile records. Do you have any comment that you would like to make to say why we should go with this bill instead of listening to what the judiciary says?
Thank you for the question.
Okay, go ahead.
Delegate, we actually met, shared the amendments that we have attached to Senate Bill 524 with the Maryland Judiciary, and my understanding is that they're not taking a position on the bill any longer because of the additional parameters that were put forward in the bill as amended.
That's nice. I appreciate you telling me this, but I'd like to see that in writing. Do you have that in writing somewhere?
I have an email where they stated that they were taking no position. I'm happy to forward that along to you.
Can you forward that to me? Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Members, thank you for the sponsor-only hearing.
No, so can I make one correction? I'm sorry. Can I make one? We were established in 2023 of December, not 2022. I apologize.
Okay.
2023. So I just wanted to clear the record.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's not even April Fool's Day, and you guys got me. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for being here, young man. You did a great job. So that concludes our bill hearing for Senate Bill 524. We're going to move on to Senator Gile. Is he? Oh, yep. I see staff member here to testify on Senate Bill 447. Thank you and welcome. I think this is your first time being in our committee.
Yes, it is.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Chair Bartlett, Vice Chair Davis, and members of the House Judiciary Committee. For the record, Mike Cardozo on behalf of Senator Don Gile, District 33, here to present Senate Bill 447. SB 447 is cross-filed with House Bill 1326, sponsored by Delegate Wilson. Both bills have passed their respective chambers of origin. SB 447 updates Maryland law to allow limited sharing of child abuse and neglect records for employment and volunteer screening to comply with federal Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act requirements. The bill lets child-serving organizations check abuse and neglect history before placing someone into a position of responsibility with children. The bill does not look to overwhelm DHS's offices with requests for confidential information, but rather is a proactive measure in giving organizations serving children outside of the school system the ability to request information required to best protect the children that they serve. We are proposing a friendly amendment from DHS that enables the department to continue to comply with federal statute and funding requirements. The amendment conforms SB 447 and HB 1326 into identical postures. With that, Madam Chair, I respectfully request a favorable report on SB 447. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, do we have any questions? We used them all up, sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Good to see you. And tell the senator hello.
Will do.
All righty. Do we have someone still from Senator Sidnor's office? Okay. All right. And we don't have anyone from Senator Henson's office. I've seen them come and go, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So we will take a brief recess. Thank you. Good afternoon. We are resuming our bill hearing. Today is April 2nd, 2026. We're going to start with Senator Sidnor's bill, Senate Bill 16. And you may begin. You'll have 3 minutes whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the House Judiciary Committee. My name is Ian Miller. I'm Senator Sidnor's legislative aide, coming to testify before you on Senate Bill 16. SB 16, as amended, limits earnings withholdings for child support at 35% for parents with annual incomes below $40,000 or 250% of the federal poverty level, and delays implementation until 2028. The amendments also eliminate the $3.9 million fiscal note by shifting the workload income determination away from the Department of Human Services and back into the employer's hands, which is already the current process under the current law. This is parity with other garnishment rates in Maryland and remains consistent with the logic that obligors must bear responsibility for caring for dependents while retaining enough income to survive. With this, I urge a favorable report on Senate Bill 16 as amended. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I have a few questions. Okay, my first question is, you mentioned 35%. I saw 25% in the bill. Can you explain a little bit where the 25% comes from, and is that accurate?
So that was a bill drafting error, and we're amenable for that to be removed.
Okay, so it should just be, all the consistency should be 35%.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then the other question is the 250%, what we're using to determine, are we using disposable earnings, or are we using something else? Can you explain? There was some inconsistency there too. Oh, I see. So we have the obligor's individual income, but yet on another page we have disposable earnings. Can you explain the difference? Not the difference, but is that correct?
Yeah, we opted to use the obligor's individual income for the current year.
Okay, and so where I see on page 2 of the bill, where it says obligor's disposable earnings at the 250% level, that should actually read the individual's income?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, great. So these amendments will make sure we get that corrected and send it back over to the Senate so that they can do the same if the committee so chooses. Delegate Taylor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am the excited cross-file for this bill. And I just want to clear up some things while we're here. Can you talk a little bit about federal compliancy? I know there have been, during our discussions with DHS and our offices, that Senate Bill 16 and my bill might make it impossible for Maryland to meet its federal compliancy goals. Can you have any comment on that?
I saw that in the opposition testimony, and I didn't really see much explanation to how they find that. Just a reminder that this recommendation came from the former head of the federal child support, and I don't think it's very likely that they would recommend anything that would make us non-compliant with federal regulations.
Okay, great.
But I have another question, and that is regarding the fiscal note. Can you please address this huge fiscal note and why 20-plus employees are going to be needed?
Yeah, we were confused when we saw the fiscal note because essentially I have here the income withholding for support form as amended, considering the bill shifts the burden to employers, that it's not going to take $5 million to update 3 lines on this form, which would be on page 3 of 4.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So technically, not technically, but what the bill does is give language that has to be placed on the determination form for child support it gives language that has to be updated on a form.
Yes.
Okay, and so the agency's position is that they need 29 employees or 20-plus employees to do that.
Yeah, we don't feel that's accurate.
Okay. Are there other questions? Delegate Williams.
Yes, so the bill as amended, does that resolve the concerns that were raised by the department? Let me scroll back up here. Department of Human Services.
I mean, I would just point to the fact that we initially proposed a 25% cap, and that was from last year's language that was DHS's. And so we're a little bit confused on why that we ended up raising it to 35%. After they raised concerns that it could result in partial payment. So we raised it to 35% to ensure that wouldn't happen in 95% of cases across the board. And so I would say it doesn't resolve their opposition, but I would contend that their opposition is difficult to understand considering it's higher than the amount that they put forward last year.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Delegate McComas.
I should know this, but I don't. Disposable income is basically what they have after tax?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let me just ask you this. But it's based on if it's one person and they don't have another child with them, they own the child support. But does it get more complicated if they have a child by another marriage and then, and then they have the child that they're paying the child support? And I mean, is it going to get a little weird?
Okay. My understanding is that doesn't affect the garnishment rate.
It does not, in other words, that if they have a child that lives in their house, that's going to just be part of the non-taxable, whatever their salary is. And basically, they're not going to be accounted for that they have another child to support.
Correct.
Okay. And so disposable income, then, that would not include what, for insurance, health insurance, what their share, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
That would be part of the disposable or non-disposable, like taxes.
Okay, disposable income is everything after taxes by and large.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I thought I saw Senator Sidnor come in. Oh, but I had a question for him. That's what I wanted. I wanted him to see that, how well they're doing. Any other questions, members? Delegate Taylor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And under, I'm going to say our amendments, because they're our amendments, how does the process look now? As compared to, well, how will the process look as compared to how it happens?
Under our amendment, the process will look that DHS and the courts would update the supplemental information section on the standard income form, withholding order that they send out, a sample of which everybody I think has. The employer would be informed that they should take no more than 35% of the employee's disposable income if the employee is set to earn less than $40,000 a year. And Maryland could provide a calculator, as some other states do, to help make this easier for employers, but they don't necessarily have to.
$40,000 is roughly equivalent to the 250% of the poverty level. Okay, and the form already exists, right? So they're not creating a new form.
No.
There's just a section that already exists, right? That all they have to do on that section, isn't that so? It's just give instructions to the employer as to how to calculate the the withholding.
And if you, that would be on page 3 of this form that was submitted as part of testimony.
Okay, great, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Members, do we have any other questions? All right. Seeing none, thank you very much. Did a great job. Fantastic. I saw a member of Senator Henson's staff. I don't see her anymore. Is she still here?
I think she's going out.
on her way down.
Okay, great. I didn't know if you were presenting for her.
Yep, she's on her way. She just got up from the witness table.
Okay, all right, great.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Could I have a moment, Madam Chair?
Middle of our hearing. Give me 1 second. I promise, we'll be quick. I think we will. Well, hopefully Senator Henson is delayed because she's bringing us one of the emergency response animals. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. That is not something I should joke about because I know how much we need therapy support dogs. Yeah, I was joking, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Delegate Conaway.
You forgot the vice chair is allergic to dogs.
I know, I was just joking. So Senator Henson, I was saying that hopefully you're delayed because you're bringing one of the emergency response animals. And unfortunately, because in this committee, we need therapy support dogs or therapy support animals, that unfortunately my committee was not very happy I made that comment.
I do apologize.
Yes. So I apologize. I apologize, but I've gotten everybody primed for your bill.
Yes.
All right, we're going to hear Senate Bill 360, Senator Henson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the distinguished Judiciary Committee. For the record, Senator Shanika Henson here to present Senate Bill 360. You all heard the wonderful cross-file for this bill, which was House Bill 563, and did pass it out of the committee. The Senate bill comes to you with a few differences, but you all did fantastic work on this bill. If you choose to pass this bill, it would be wonderful if you added in some of that great work to the Senate bill. Notably, you all added into the House bill a definition that includes horses used in search and rescue efforts. You also added into their law enforcement unit, and you referenced the part of the code that defines law enforcement unit. And in speaking with committee counsel and JPR and the advocates on the bill, that does make the bill stronger and it makes it more clear. So those two additions by this committee were wonderful. And speaking with counsel on JPR and the advocates for the bills do have one difference that I would ask the committee to reconsider the posture that it comes over from the Senate in, and that is how to deal with self-defense. And both committees seem to have wanted to make sure that that was preserved. It was stricken from the original version of the bill, but the two committees handled it different. And speaking with committee counsel and JPR, as they have explained it to me, self-defense is a common law defense and it comes from person to person. So you can have self-defense when you are defending yourself against a person, but a dog is not considered a person. It is considered property. And so the common law defense of self-defense would not be available. So JPR wrote it in as the defense of necessity. So if the person is being attacked by an animal and they have to use a certain amount of force to be able to repel the animal, they could still do that under the defense of necessity. So if the committee were inclined to move the bill, which I hope that you all are, I would ask the committee to retain the language from JPR, which does have the language surrounding necessity when it comes to having to repel the force of the animal for a reason to preserve oneself. And with that, I will ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 360. Thank you.
Now, that was a light shine that was shined on this because the necessity was really throwing us off. Delegate Phillips.
I just wanted to say thank you to the counsel for JPR, because we kind of went around on this one, and I think you all landed the plane.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just one moment, please,
Yes.
Senator.
In the 60s, this is a big deal for me. I Googled it, and the defense of necessity is a necessity defense or lesser of two evils defense. It is an affirmative defense, arguing that illegal action was justified to prevent greater immediate harm. To succeed, defendants must generally prove they faced an emergency, lacked legal alternatives, and did not cause the danger or acted reasonably to prevent significant harm. That bothers me. That bothers me. Okay, because it burden of defending myself to me rather than against a dog?
Well, self-defense is an affirmative defense as well, so
Yes.
it would exist in the same posture in a criminal proceeding. And for self-defense, you have to act reasonably as well, and you can only meet with a proportional amount of force. And it sounds like necessity is in the same posture as self-defense, with some tweaks in the terminology. But if self-defense is an imperfect and incomplete defense, and it's there and can be defeated because it's not person to person, then we could pass a bill that doesn't leave any defense at all.
Wouldn't that fail every time because I couldn't prove I did not cause a danger?
What do you mean?
If a dog is being sicked on me because I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time or whatever, how do I prove that I did not cause the danger?
So I think the best example or the brightest line is you have a officer or a handler that's a bad actor. And let's say that handler is a bad actor and they sick the dog on you, and we can clearly prove that person had malintent when they sick the dog on you. Then I think if that's happening, then we've already reached a threshold that that person was outside of the scope. They were acting in a reason that was malicious. They should not have done that. And so for that reason, any action you take after that, this is not a person that was using that in the scope of their duty, and we have to wonder or parse or split hairs to see, were you acting in a way that was in accordance with this person acting lawfully or reasonably? They are outside of that realm. What is happening to you at that moment, you are defending yourself, and it is 100% within necessity.
Suppose the officer rightly or without malice told the dog to attack you. Without malice.
I think one of the things that the committee wanted to make sure was, and I don't know that you'll love this, but was a part of what remained as well, is that when an officer is deploying an animal and using force in that way, it's on the continuum of force like all the other tools that an officer has to use force. And so if an officer is appropriately using force, we may be uncomfortable with the use of force, but if that's what's happening in that scenario, then the officer's use of force in that way is something that they are permitted to be able to do.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Okay, one question. In the bill, or in the law, self-defense was there, and it was taken out. So that concern, that just kind of makes me wonder. Can you explain why? So it was there, we took it out, well, the Senate took it out and put in the defense of necessity. I know you were saying, you gave the explanation, but can you just shine some light on that as well?
Self-defense was removed, I think, just as a feature of the drafting. It was never the intent of myself or the cross-file to remove the opportunity for a self-defense. But once it was removed and we had to figure out how to restore the ability for that defense, that triggered the conversation of what was the best and most appropriate language to restore that.
Question. Delegate Woods?
I think mine is kind of an interesting thing. What if the animal, canine dog, attacked a child and someone went to defend the child? How is that classified?
So in your scenario, the dog is attacking a child.
Correct.
And I don't know that, I'm not an expert in the use of force, but I don't know anywhere on the continuum of force where attacking a child is a part of the continuum of force, whether it's an animal or an officer. Attacking is not a part of the continuum of force. So at that point, they are outside of the scope, and repelling that attack is something that a person can do out of necessity. So that using the defense of necessity would be available to a person that repelled that attack.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Members, do we have any other questions? All right. Seeing none. Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, and thank you for the indulgence of time. I apologize, I was upstairs.
Quite all right. We
Thank you.
understand we're all you're still doing the work of the people.
Thank you.
So, members, that concludes our bill hearing for today. Everyone have a good evening, and we will be having a vote section tomorrow.
Chair,